Greetings everyone, it's me, PC Patient Zero, or PCJulianGreystoke. If you are watching this on my BlipTV channel, you know me as PC Patient Zero, and you know that I mostly do book reviews and such. If you are watching this over on PariahCast channel, you probably know me best as the disembodied voice of Zero's player in our Let's Play of Borderlands 2. Hi. So like I said, mostly I do book reviews, but I absolutely love BioWare games, mostly, and I just finished playing through Dragon Age Inquisition, so I had to do a review for you all. I had no choice.
I am hunted for the power I wield.
Before I begin, I should say that I was playing on the Xbox 360, a little old school I know, but what are you gonna do? Also, there will be spoilers in this video, probably not huge spoilers. I'm gonna try not to do anything like spoil the ending too much, but there will be some spoilers, gameplay spoilers, story and character spoilers of some kind. I'll also be showing footage of my playthrough of the game, which will show footage of gameplay and footage of some sort of non-essential quests. So be prepared for that. If you don't want to be spoiled in any way, off you get. This is not the video for you. I should also warn you that because I'm a little bit late to the game, because quite frankly, the people who've already reviewed it, video gaming is their day job, but it is not mine. So I am probably going to be repeating a lot of what other video game reviewers have said about the game, but that's okay. I'm just gonna give you my opinion. And if it happens to be someone else's opinion too, oh well. So I'm gonna split this motherfucker up into 3 categories. Those categories will be gameplay, characters, and story. We're gonna start with gameplay, because it was first on my list. Right away, and I guess this is kind of gameplay-esque, I noticed that the beginning cinematic was kind of clippy and choppy. And that's because, I guess, my understanding is something to do with the speed or frame rate, I guess, of the cinematics in the game are like restricted to a certain speed or whatever, and as a result they can sometimes be kind of choppy. And it's awkward, and I feel like the first cinematic in your game should not do that. Right away, this game reminded me of Mass Effect, the first one, and I'm probably going to be making many Mass Effect comparisons in this game. Fair warning, Mass Effect 2 is my favorite game of all time. But I also love and have played many times all of the Dragon Age games, as well as the Mass Effect games, so some comparisons are gonna go down because, let's face it, the games are already pretty similar to each other in style and with the dialogue options and everything. And right away, this one felt like Mass Effect 1, or really any of them, but it more like 1, because you had the Citadel there as like your quest place that you went back to or whatever, and then eventually kind of the Normandy was the place that you went back to, and here you have Haven and eventually Skyhold as kind of serving the purpose of the Normandy or the Citadel. Again, going along with this Mass Effect theme, there were a ton of side quests and very mini quests and so much to do, which for the most part is good. I feel like, you know, having more to do in your game is good, but a lot of times I kind of felt like, you know, in Mass Effect 1, you'd be driving around on those planets just finding shit, you know, because you could, and you're a completionist like me, you gotta find everything. So I felt like that. I felt like I was just running around picking up ore, you know? I'm like, I am the Mako, except for with better steering. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. On the one hand, I like having lots of stuff to do, but on the other hand, there is so much stuff to do that eventually it gets to feel like a chore, and you're just like, can I be done? Why do I have to collect everything? What is this psychosis that I have? Another thing you will notice right away that is different from the previous Dragon Age games is the lack of healing items and healing spells. I went all the way through the game being like, okay, maybe I can get into this, but I don't like it, personally. I know in Dragon Age Origins, it got a little ridiculous. You know, by the end, you're going up against the Archdemon, and you have like 200 potions, or at least I did. I was just like a potion hoarding person. And so my guys would never die because it'd just be like potion, 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 you know, micromanaging all of them to drink all the potions ever. And then this one, you cannot have very many, and they're like, your mage doesn't really have a heal spell either. So I guess it serves to make you feel more fragile, but at the same time it adds a layer of frustration that I didn't feel like I wanted, you know, like, I liked to be able to feel like there's something I could do about it in battle, like, oh crap, my guy is dying and we're out of potions. Well, I'm fucked, you know, there's nothing, my mage doesn't have a heal spell, I've got nothing to keep my party alive, you know, to help me fight those bosses, and when they die, when my whole party dies halfway through the boss and leaves me alone because I played a warrior and therefore was the tankiest tank that ever did tank in the 7 seas of tankdom. I was left alive most of the time, beating on the enemy all by myself because I would, you know, be out of potions or whatever. So, long story short, lack of potions and healing didn't do it for me. Maybe some people like the challenge. I found it kind of frustrating. Another thing that annoyed me, and I probably could have gone into the controls and fixed this, but I am way too lazy, was that the button, I had this same problem in Mass Effect 2 and 3, I think. The button to interact with something is the same button that makes you jump. So I'd be like, hey, there's a guy that I want to interact with, and then I'd like hit the A button to talk to him, and instead I jump, so I look like this crazy person jumping at this guy that I want to talk to, or I'd be like jumping towards this thing that I wanted to collect. And it was really annoying and awkward and looked stupid. So as you're going through these mini quests, there's a lot of map to cover. The worlds are quite huge and expansive and beautiful, very beautiful. But like you'll see on your little map that your quest item is like way over there. And you're like, okay, there's a mountain in my way. Am I supposed to climb this mountain, go around this mountain, or find some secret hidden cave to go through / under this mountain? That was like the most frustrating thing for me. It was like, what do I do with this mountain? I would spend hours just running around the outside of some of these mountains trying to figure out how to get to the top of them. Because sometimes you could, you know, jump your way up there and weasel around and get up there, and sometimes you could not, and it was impossible to figure out which you were supposed to do. And that just felt like unnecessarily annoying padding to me, to make me have to hop around a mountain looking for a cave or a path or rocks to climb on or something. I hated that. Speaking of huge worlds, it was nice to see that the worlds were so massive without a lot of load screens. The load screens that there were took a long time and were not very exciting, but there weren't that many. It didn't really bother me, and the worlds that they loaded were huge and full and beautiful, and so I didn't mind at all. There are, however, quite a few glitches in this game, which I hear are probably going to be patched. A couple of them that annoyed me were sometimes, and this happened I believe twice, I would finish a battle and the post-battle cinematic would begin to play, but the game would still think I was in battle, so I would not be able to interact with any of the dialogue wheel, and I'd have to just reload. So that was frustrating, only happened a couple of times. What happened more often was a glitch which involved me having to skip through a cinematic because it would just like freeze. Like one guy would finish his sentence and it was supposed to switch to the other talking character and it wouldn't, which would force me to skip and to get through the cinematic and, you know, miss large chunks of dialogue and even miss choices that my character would make on the dialogue wheel. It would just choose for me because I was forced to skip through it. And I didn't mind it so much when it was like the minor cinematics, but I was forced to skip through something that was fairly major and I actually wanted to hear about. And I tried reloading and it still had that problem, so it's not just like a one-time thing. That was the most annoying for me, and that happened many times. I know other people have also had glitches where party banter will not activate, Or characters will not continue their like quest line, their like talking to you. Like I think Iron Bull has a glitch where he will just be done talking to you and all he'll say is goodbye, and like you won't be able to continue any quests or storylines with him. But I heard that there's going to be a patch for at least that, so that'll be good. I didn't have that problem. I'm so happy, because that would have been ridiculously disappointing. I enjoy the mounts in this game, the different critters that you get to ride. Usually I rode around on a horse because I love horses in real life, and so I was like, pony! And I know some people don't find them to be useful. I actually did when I was in a place where the horse could actually get going, because one of the annoying parts was that the terrain would make the horse stop galloping all the time, and I was like, no, I need to get from here to here, and I need to do it now. Run, horsey, run like the wind. And so that was a little annoying, but in general I enjoyed the mounts, and I did use them quite a bit. I even did some horsey platforming while I jumped around on the rocks while on a horse. That was interesting. Speaking of platforming and that annoyance of finding your way around a mountain again, the overworld maps are ridiculously unhelpful. Basically they exist for you to be able to teleport from place to place. But if you're like, here's a mountain and my quest item is on top of it, and you're like, I'll look at my map and see if I can determine maybe there's a path somewhere. The map is so vague, it is impossible to determine if there's a good way onto that mountain. You have to find it yourself, and it's quite frustrating, because it'll look like you can just get from point A to point B, and there's a fucking lake in the way, and you can't even tell. Really annoying. I miss the maps from Dragon Age, and yeah, it was sad. One of my other biggest gripes, I know it seems like I'm complaining a lot about this game, but most of my complaints do come from the gameplay side of it. So we're getting all that shit out of the way right away. So, one of my main gripes is, in this game you can not only do missions yourself, but you can also go back to your war room, and on your great big, world map, you can send one of your 3 advisors, Josephine, Cullen, or Liliana, to complete their own quests in the world, get you stuff, progress the story, etc. Which is great, and at first I thought it was really cool, but eventually, because these quests take up real time, and at first it was like, oh, the most they would take up is half an hour, and I can do shit for half an hour. But toward the end, they were taking upwards of 22 to 25 hours, and I had initially been like, I'm not gonna cheat, I'm just gonna, do this. When they were at like 5 hours, I was like, alright, that's really long, but okay. But then once they got up to like 20 and 22, I did go in and change my Xbox's clock to get them done, because that is ridiculous. What? No. I don't know if this qualifies as gameplay, but it doesn't really qualify as story or characters either. I've heard some people praising the music in this game, and overall I found the music really underwhelming, except the bard songs that you can hear in the various taverns and whatnot. Those are amazing, and my character would literally stand there in the tavern listening to the bards sing. And I now have most of those songs on my MP3 player because they're great. When you're in battle, you do have an opportunity to use a sort of tactical overview option, but I tried it and then I never used it again. I think it would be a useful option if the camera would go anywhere that was helpful. Half the time I was like inside of a tree, and every time I tried to move the camera to anywhere even remotely helpful to my cause, it didn't work. So basically the tactical overview thing, useless. I will not be talking about multiplayer in this review because I have no interest in playing it, and I heard that it's pretty bad. So, it's not gonna get talked about. Sorry. Okay, so characters, and maybe I'll be a little bit less crabby with them. Right away, let's talk about your main character. You have a lot of opportunity to design them. I played a Kunari because Kunari are badass. And, I bonded with her almost immediately. Faster than I've really bonded with any other character besides Shepard that I've started playing in a game. I was just instantly liked her. I didn't even know her. I haven't even decided what her character was yet, but I liked her. This might sort of qualify as gameplay, but I put it in characters because it seems like it fits better here. You remember from previous Dragon Age games, you have approval from your followers instead of something like a Mass Effect where you have, you know, your Paragon and your Renegade bars for choices you make. Inquisition does not allow you to see, like, how many points these characters have in, like, affection for you. There's no way to check that, so you have to guess. Granted, it is pretty easy to tell. All of my fellow teammates pretty much liked me. I've heard that some people really have trouble with it, but it was easy enough for me to tell, like, kind of what they wanted to hear. I know, it's a little duplicitous. Mostly I played my character, but sometimes I would be like, you don't want to hear that. Let's say what I know you want. The character that liked me the least was probably Vivienne, but we were still friends, so nobody, like, hated me and nobody left. So I overall did not mind the friendship bar, lack of a visible friendship bar on my first playthrough. I feel like, though, in subsequent playthroughs, I'm gonna wish it's there because I'm, you know, kind of a micromanager, and I'm gonna be curious, you know, like, okay, what is the cap for friendship? When should I stop trying to, like, love me? When do I tone it down and try to get friendship with some other characters? Like, I would like to see it. It made the first playthrough feel authentic, but, like, second and third playthroughs, I might just be like, you just show me. Just how happy are you right now? If you were to put "you're happy with me" into a bar, how big would it be? I really liked that, you know, in previous games like Mass Effect and Dragon Age, you could choose what party members you wanted to come with you, but generally it didn't matter who you had. Like, they may have some original dialogue to say, but it didn't matter who you had with you. This game, it really actually mattered who you chose to take with you on, like, major story missions and even small side missions. Especially in major story missions, if you had the right people with you, you could, an option would appear on the dialogue tree to ask them for their advice and their thoughts, which I loved. It was great to be like, yes, I chose the right people to come with me, or, ooh, that was maybe not the best choice. Like I said, the party banter is back, and it is great. I love Iron Bull and Vivienne bantering with each other. They probably have my favorite of the banter that I've heard so far. And I pretty much love all of the characters. In most games like this, there are at least a few characters that I don't like. Like, I'm not really a big fan of Morrigan. I'm sorry, fanboys. She annoys me. And I didn't really like Isabella or Meryl from Dragon Age 2. Both of those people, no. But in this game, I really liked everyone. There was not really a character that I could say I didn't like. I wasn't besties with Blackwall, but I didn't dislike his character. They were all really engaging, supremely well written. I loved them all. The voice acting in this game is, for the most part, really great. Some standouts would be the voice of Solus, which I loved because it's Welsh. He has a Welsh accent and it's adorable. And the fellow who voiced Cole does an amazing job. I could just, like, listen to him all day because he really puts so much emotion and inflection into his voice. But all of the characters all of the main cast are very well voice acted. Blackwall may be phoning it in just a touch. Some of the minor characters that you encounter have this bit of a problem where they all sort of sound like they were voiced by the same person, just trying to do different accents and often failing. So some of the voice acting of the, like, minor NPCs that you run into is pretty bad. Back to talking about my main character again very briefly, she often suffers from the old Dragon Age problem of the blank stare. I don't know why, because, you know, they were able to make Shepard very expressive, but she, like, I think she tried to smile once, and it was just like... She's really good at scowling, though, because I gave her kind of angry eyebrows. I love that this game doesn't shy away from topics like homosexuality and transgender. One of my favorite characters is just a minor character, Krem, who is transgendered, and the game really does do a good job of maybe, like, explaining that a little bit to people who don't know what it is, and also coming around on the side of being gay and being transgendered is okay and good, and I'm like, yes, finally we just have a stance. BioWare has said, nope, enough, you can be gay, you can be trans, were cool. The last thing I have to say about the characters is back to the approval thing. While not knowing their approval through most of the game was fine by me, at the very end, when you're making some huge decisions that you know some characters, somebody on your party is going to disagree with it, and it's just a matter of how much, that kind of thing stressed me out way more than it should. Okay, let's talk about story, and then the story ending we'll talk about last. Because there'll probably be more spoilers for that in there. So the story, it goeth thusly. Minor spoilers ahead. So there's a huge ass hole torn in the sky, and it's all green and bad, and it killed a whole bunch of people, including the divine Justinia. And who should come walking out of it but you? Some random person who everybody thinks is the cause of this, and everybody hates you. But some people start to like you and think that maybe you're really important. So you are in charge of struggling to repair the hole in the sky, figure out who caused it, become the best SAM leader that you can possibly be, bone the person of your choice, and in the end win the day. Fairly simple overview. In the meantime, though, you've got political strife going on, you've got mages and Templars to deal with. There's a lot of story here. Let me just say that the beginning of this story was super engaging. I was into it right away and excited to find out what was going on with that tear in the sky, with these people who found me, why did I walk out of the Fade, what was even going on. It was a great setup and it had me super engaged right away. One thing I will say, the story narratively, the flow was broken up a lot by all of the mini quests that you could do. The overall overarching story was okay, but got more and more average as it went on. The tear in the sky, this is kind of a spoiler, while still there, suddenly takes a back seat to this cackling evil villain guy who's just sort of your stereotypical very powerful villain. And the tear in the sky is honestly a much better villain than him because it's huge, it's mysterious, demons are pouring out of it, you don't know what caused it, you don't know what will make it go away necessarily. So I wish that had been left as the big scary thing, and instead of just some guy that you have to hit with a stick to defeat him. Because the tear thing was amazing, and I was sad that it went away and just kind of went into the background eventually. Especially like when you were in Haven and you could see it like lurking above you. That was scary and that was good. Why did they stop doing that? You know, you're running around in these sunny fields with no feeling of danger from a giant hole in the sky at all. Okay, so let's kind of talk about the ending, and there are probably going to be more spoilers. I don't think I'll spoil the overall ending, but I'm certain you can guess, with a classic bad guy that you hit with a sword, what sort of ending we're going to get. One of my big gripes with this ending is it suffers from the same problem as Mass Effect 3. You build up all this stuff. You've got war assets, and you've got allies, and you've got all this shit together, and you've done all of the side quests for your personal allies, and none of it matters in the end. None of it. Honestly, my favorite RPG ending of all time is probably from my favorite RPG of all time, that being Mass Effect 2, where if you don't upgrade your ship, people die. If you don't select the right crew members for parts of this mission, people die. If you don't do their side quests so they have loyalty to you, people die. In this game, it never felt like you were going to lose. There was never a threat that any one of your friends could be killed. And that really just took away all of the tension and all of the fear from the final battle. And the ending felt really rushed, as though perhaps the beginning might have been leading up to this kind of feeling of tension and concern. Did I do enough? Are we going to be able to pull this through? Did I do enough mini quests? Damn it. And instead we got sort of a really rushed ending where you never felt like you were in danger. You felt like the big, successful, awesome person who was just going to go beat up the bad guy and it's another Sunday in the park. So that was disappointing. Not probably as disappointing as Mass Effect 3, but actually pretty close because it felt like you had been doing all that stuff for no reason. I also felt like at the beginning of the game, here's a spoiler right here, You might want to skip if you really don't want to hear it. Near the beginning of the game, you are in Haven, and the bad guy attacks you there, and just fucks up everything. The place you've been hanging out is ruined and destroyed, people have died, you barely survived, you come face to face with a dragon, and pull a Mulan, where you have avalanches falling on this guy, and you barely get away with your life. And we need more of those in this game. Like, you need to keep the tension up, and the tension was gone when we had this fortress that the bad guy just never even attacked, and it didn't seem like he was ever going to be able to get us, and we just kept building up and building up our forces to eventually come get him. And I feel like it would have been better if we had, been on the run a bit more, and really, like, if he had really had us for a while, instead of, like, very early in the game he gets us, and then we just become so badass that there's really no question that we're gonna win. So that feeling of tension that I loved from all of the Mass Effect games, and in fact Dragon Age Origins had it too, of that we could lose this battle, this is very dangerous, was not in Dragon Age Inquisition. In fact, like, just going to the final battle felt like just clicking on another mission. It was like, oh, I know this is the last thing, so I'm gonna make sure I've got everything all tied up neatly before I go, but it just didn't feel like, okay, I'm clicking on this, and your heart's in your throat, and you're like, hope we're ready. There was also, as you know, in many of the other games, there would be a moment with your significant other, or even your party, where they would come talk to you, maybe have some sexy times, before, like, the final push. And that wasn't in this game at all, really. Like, you could go talk to them, but there was never a moment where where you had them all together, unless I missed it, maybe I missed it, where you had them all together and you could talk to all of them about their feelings about the upcoming battle, maybe share some smooches with your special somebody. And so it felt really hollow and empty. The ending was not that great. But until about halfway through the game, I absolutely loved the story, so it's kind of a toss-up. I guess that means I like it, I enjoy it. So, if you managed to make it all the way through this review, high five. It's really long, I apologize. If you haven't played the game yet, I would really recommend it if you were a fan of Dragon Age, and even if you were a fan of Mass Effect, because it has a very action-y fighting system. Was it amazing, change your life kind of game like Mass Effect 2 was for me? No. Was it really fun, and will I play it again? Hell yeah, I'm definitely gonna, I'm just like about to go start a new story, really. It's gonna happen. Anyway, I will see you in my next review. If we're over on BlipTV, if we're on PariahCast, you'll probably hear me soon in our next upcoming video from our Let's Play. In the meantime, go start a new life all over again. See how this goes down.